This episode is brought to you by WSI Ottawa. Here's a question worth sitting with. When someone searches your business or asks AI, are you showing up? Because the way customers find businesses has fundamentally changed, and most small business owners don't even know they're invisible. WSI Ottawa has been on the leading edge of AI since day one. They're not just running ads and doing SEO. They're helping Canadian businesses integrate AI into their marketing, their operations, and their customer experience. We're talking AI strategy, custom implementation, and even hands-on AI training for your whole team through their WSI campus program. They also specialize in generative engine optimization, making sure your business gets found in the new world of AI-driven search, not just on Google. This is the future. WSI Ottawa can help you get there before your competitors do. Visit wsistrategies.com or call 613-424-7042.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for taking the time today to come on the show. Appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Anytime I get to talk about the things I'm super passionate about, I'm always happy to do that. So thank you for having me. And because I saw your list I looked at your podcast and I thought, wow, you have the who's who of so many people that I admire and respect. So wow, it's an honor to be here.
Even though it's the Canadian Entrepreneurs podcast, you and I were talking before we went live, and two Ottawa guys, and Ottawa is such a big city, but small in terms of connections, especially in the business community. And you and I know so many of the same people. It's always fascinates me.
It's beautiful that way, and that's what makes Ottawa kind of a special place, especially for business, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Toronto, you don't have that, right? Toronto is like hustle bustle, and you see it's like a rat race. I was just down in Toronto yesterday, and I was at Union Station. So many people walking by and not really smiling. You come downtown Ottawa, you're going to bump into somebody you likely know. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, yeah.
So Chris, tell us about your company.
So my company is Scarlett Nova. We basically help with AI adoption. I guess that is probably the gist of it. Started it because it's a funny story. I did my master's and I focused on applied AI. This was around 2016-17. And then, my wife was just basically like, go talk to somebody else about this stuff. It was like, and I was just like, yeah, good point. And I tried to do a whole. I'm also a college professor, and I teach emerging tech for business and business plan applied. And I thought to myself, I'm like, one of my things I've always said is that I never wanted to be that professor that just never did things, right? And so for me, being quite entrepreneurial, I said, okay, this seems like the right time. So we started Scarlett Nova, I think it's 2 years ago now. Right time, right place, right people. So things are going really, really well. And I get to talk about things and help businesses be successful. So it's like one of the best things I can do.
So a couple of follow-up questions. So first of all, you said you did your master's in 2016, 2017. So you were ahead of the curve then.
It's funny because it sounds good, but the reality is that, the premise for my last project, I basically went out and talked to all the companies in Ottawa that were doing AI at that time and to find out about how they're implementing it and how they're adopting it. And I could only find about 5 to 6 at that time. Mm-hmm. Now it's like it's a completely different world. It's 2022, when Chat GPT came out, that is the rocket ship that really brought AI, which has been around for over 60 years, really to the forefront, because now it's usable and applicable. Like anyone can hop on and use a large language model, right? And so I actually think for me, that November 30th, 2022, the day Chat GPT came out, is in my mind from a nerd perspective on this stuff, is the day that things really changed. That's the day that I think when 30 years down the road, if my grandchildren say, what was like, it was that day, that was the day, right?
Right. So tell us, you go into a company, kind of take us through your process. If I want to hire Chris, and you guys come in, and what do you do?
Usually we start off with a conversation where it's really trying to figure out where you are now, right? Because for you to adopt any technology, and it's just a technology, I'm sure you've had other guests that came on and talk about how it's a tool, right? It's like having a shovel, right? You have a shovel, what are you going to do with that shovel? So the first thing, first, what's the garden look like? So the first step that we actually do is we come in and we have to do an assessment of where you are now, where's your data, what tools you're using, like taking a look at your workflows. Then it's easier knowing where you are. It's easy to get from A to B, right? So we have to know where you are. Then we kind of walk you through the path of where you want to get to. Now, with that, that's also the next piece is, a strategic roadmap session, senior leadership, surveys, getting to understand within the organization where the workflows are, what the problems are, because of course, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they buy all the tools and they're like, I'm going to use them. And then no one uses them and they're not being used properly. It's like giving everyone Excel and not giving them any training, right? It's like some, maybe I can right? But the reality is that, you need to have a foundational piece. Also, there's a overlying, and something I'm also uber passionate about is the education piece, right? Because sure, the assessment, then you have the roadmap, then automations and implementation. But it all kind of doesn't work unless there's a foundation base of education and support, right? So we kind of do we're a pure AI company. We basically do, anything that's related to AI, we likely have the capabilities to do. Everything from AI governance and policy. We just announced bring on somebody with a specialty in that. So we kind of are, when I think about it, probably the purest AI company that I know out there. The premise was starting with AI and to support, companies with that adoption piece, because they struggle. It's a struggle. I could tell you, many people are still trying to figure this out. And I always think that if you can figure it out now, you definitely have an advantage. Because it's like, okay, I'm good with the shovel, and now I can dig a ditch better than somebody else, right? I think the shovel analogy is not the best for that, but I think you get the gist of it.
And is there who's your ideal client? What's a typical company size that you would have the most impact on?
Well, that's a good question, because I wish we were probably more fine-tuned in regards to who our target market is, just because we're been fortunate where we've been sought out by others, and so it's very hard to. Generally, I'd say, if I had to say, we kind of cover the whole gamut, because we've helped everything from associations, we've worked with the government, and we work with small, medium enterprises. And when I say it's mostly the medium-sized companies. So for us to really have an impact, it's usually 10 people or more, usually 5 million or more in revenue. The really small one-person company, it's much harder to really help, because they lack data, they lack systems. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's usually established companies. One of the premises that I started the business on was the fact that I really felt that the SMEs would have the hardest challenges with adoption, and it's really holding true, because large enterprise, they have the resources, they can hire people, they can have a director of AI, they can get the talent. Startups, they have an advantage too, because they get to build the foundation, the AI foundation, AI native, they basically can do that. It's legacy businesses that are, which is 95% of Canadian businesses, that basically kind of have to figure it out within their current structure and system, right? And that's a challenge. That's a challenge. And on top of it, it's okay, now we need more money for this, right? It's an add-on, but it's a necessary add-on. So they really kind of have to figure out, okay, well, where they're going to be spending the money, and making sure that they're not spending it and not getting any value from it. Because that's one of the big things that we really focus on, is we want to make sure that the people get value from adoption of AI, because otherwise they're going to be, well, it doesn't work. And then, you end up a stat like that 95% of pilots don't work, which I still, that was a large enterprise. That stat is kind of out there, but I don't believe it's representative of what the real situation is amongst SMEs.
So where do you get the resistance as to whether or not people are going to use your services? Is it at the CFO level because it's an expense, or is it at the CEO level, or is it underneath either one of those?
Well, it's interesting because when we first started, we thought, okay, we would be hired from the tech budget, but it turns out that not so much. It turns out that it's mostly coming, and I wouldn't say there's any like resistance. That's a good one because I don't really know if there's a lot of resistance about using and adopting AI. I think it's more just. I actually think it's more. I don't want to call it a lack of knowledge, but I guess I have to call it that. I think it's most people, especially senior level, like they have an understanding because it's in the news constantly, right? But what's in the news isn't what I really consider reality, because it's like it's a sensationalism of it, right? Like, oh, it did this robot kicked this, right? Like it's really, you're hearing the things that people are the clickbait version of AI, when really, the fundamentals of it are very, very strong in regards to adopting it into business. Because if you think about it, what does AI do? AI can make things more efficient, right? Can connect data, can also provide better insights or insights that you might not be able to acquire just from yourself reading something. So all like the fundamentals of what AI can do are great, because what it actually does is helps you potentially reduce cost and helps you make better decisions, which is really the fundamentals, right? And that's what the show focus. And the other piece is like, all to say is that I think, when I think about like the senior management level, it's really kind of just figuring out how to do it, right? And that's our specialty, right? Like that's like we spend a lot of time on the education piece, because we also think that what people think can be done and what can be done are two separate things. So we often spend a lot of time saying, and also we also spend a lot of time just personalizing, the large language model personalization, because they didn't do that yet, right? Like there's so many things that I think that that they don't know yet, and then when we come in, there's always light bulb moments, right? There's always like, heck, I didn't know that. Or like, you mean I could personalize that? Oh, like just really some basic stuff here. And I think that's the value we really provide. Because we're not just focused like, and I'm kind of rambling on here, but the other piece is like, when we first started the company, we had a little bit more of a tech focus, or like, okay, we're going to apply this technology to that. It's a people problem. It's a human problem. And so when I ended up the adoption, it's like giving anyone a tool. Not everyone's going to use the shovel, right? Like, and so you have to figure out what motivates them. There's still some fear around, okay, is it going to replace me, right? Which I think is basically, I don't necessarily fall into the category of that. Like I had a conversation a while ago with somebody and he was a marketing guy, and he said, no, the difference is now I used to be able to do like a blog a day. Now the expectation is I do 20 blogs a day. Right, like, and so right. And I always relate AI also as steroids, right? Like, as it's kind of like for the person with experience and expertise, it kind of jacks up your game by like multiples, right? What, like, sorry, Pat, I'm rambling. What do you think?
Oh, good. So I'm curious. Are your services are you ready? Like your clients, where are they located typically? Is your audience, do you go right across North America? Are you in Europe? Are you in Ottawa? Where's that?
We're focused predominantly in Canada.
Okay.
Next year, we do have some plans to probably enter other markets. But the goal here is to eventually set up Scarlett Nova offices across Canada.
Okay.
We're predominantly focused in Ottawa right now. But we see, opportunity like it's, the pie is so big, right? Like, and right at this point in time, we're looking forward to, building out our consultancy across Canada, because I think there's a need. Like it's not like there's, we definitely see the signals that it's needed. It's not a matter of, it's a matter of just when is your company going to start implementing, and how are you going to do it? Are you going to have experts come in to support that, or are you going to try to do it yourself, right? And I'm a little bit biased here. I tend to be, have experts come in, help you get to where you need to go, and then we'll happily hand it off and say, good luck, reach out when you need us again.
So let's switch gears a little bit, Chris, and talk about entrepreneurship in kind of in general terms. So Is this something you always knew you wanted to do, was to have your own business someday?
It's one of those things. So I'm a professor in the business management entrepreneurship program at Algonquin College as well. And when I was, it's interesting because when I did commerce, there's no entrepreneurship course. Like, so I graduated with a commerce degree. I loved business. It was one of those, I went from psychology where I was scraping by at university to going into business, and all of a sudden my marks just explode upwards, right? And I'm like, okay, there's a sign. That's a sign, right? Or a signal. And entrepreneurship wasn't like, I was born in Sudbury, Ontario. Like, I took an entrepreneurship course. I think it was in my grade 13 for most people who didn't have to take grade 13. And I took it. And that's when I got bit by the bug, I think, in a certain sense. But, I kind of fall into the rich dad, poor dad trap because my father was a teacher, mom was a nurse, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of like, okay, but I always had it in me, right? It's like one of those things is like, so I go into these companies and I worked many places and I was always trying to push the limits, right? And then, often being told no, 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 no. And eventually that frustration, I always tried to put myself into positions and within companies where I could be innovative and try things and such. But it came much later in life for me. Like it was one of those things where my success in corporations was kind of like the thing that prevented me from entrepreneurship. Because I was like, I'm making good money. I got a good title. I'm following what I was trained to do as a kid, right? Like follow that road. It was only later in life where I really kind of started to flex that entrepreneurship muscle. Like everything from and I think for me, it was like probably my late 30s where my first really entrepreneurial venture. I created an online marketplace that helped the buying and selling of businesses. Of course, didn't work at the time. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think it should come back. But as with any startup or any business, you're not rolling the dice per se, but there's an element of risk, right? And I think sometimes it's tough for people to overcome that element of risk. But now it's the irony is because I teach it, I say the risk is not doing it now, right? The risk in my mind is, people think jobs are secure. There's no job that's secure in my mind. Like jobs aren't secure. It's and I always think now, and I tell my students, if you can create something out of nothing and you can sell, which is the other piece, then you will always be able to do something and provide and create value, right?
Do you find, Chris, that that's the gap? That's what I find is always the gap. When I'm talking to people either through the marketing agency that I'm a partner in or my coaching business, it's they don't want to have to sell. They have the idea, but they're thinking, okay, the market's just going to come to them, and that's just not reality.
That's like we build it and it will come. They will come. Like that's the death of your business, right? And maybe in some cases you hit the lottery and you kind of had that product market fit that everyone's like, I need this, right? But I think selling is, first off, a skill that AI will have a very, very hard time replacing. But I do think it's one of the probably the most necessary skills of any business person. I had one professor in my program, Tony Belletti, who has passed on. But one of the things I remember, and it was in class or having a coffee with him, he said, like, if you don't have the ability to persuade somebody to pull money out of your pocket and give it to you, you have a hobby, not a business. And that has always stuck with me. Yeah. And I think sales, and I don't really call it sales anymore because I think it's, in a sense, it's market research. Right? Like it's learning. Like that's what sales is. Like sure you want somebody to pay you, but and that's part of it, and it's great when they pay you. But the reality is that every time you have a sales conversation, you are learning something. And it's like not to do this, or maybe they want this. It is the most important function in my opinion.
So before we went live, I mentioned to you that I'm a partner in a marketing agency. I was going to ask you a marketing-oriented question, so here it comes. What's been the best form of marketing that you've done to take your business to the next level?
So that's, I'm still, in many ways, I'm still trying to figure that out. And so maybe we should chat later. But I actually think that your business is all about relationships, right? Like I really believe that. And I really believe, and sometimes that's going to you could, with today's technology, like I could literally send out a mass email to like a million people if I really wanted to, right? Like you can have that ability to do that. And you can probably have it somewhat personalized because of AI functionality. But I don't like that. Like, and I know that's weird, right? Considering and it may work, but for me, I believe it's about the personal relationship. So what's working for us is our relationship, our existing network. So we have, everyone that's involved in Scarlett Nova is a senior level professional. And we have strong networks and relationships, and that's really how we're, to this point now, that's how we're building it.
Okay. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur that's struggling?
So start building relationships, start collecting data, right? Get your one of the things, and it's funny, and I'll talk about in my when I teach is, a lot of ideas, and they're excited, and they're like, oh, we're going to do it. And I say, have you talked to customers? Right? Like, simple. And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's what I would suggest you do. Talk to the potential people that you think will buy your product, right? And in that market research, you can also, so I think start collecting data, because data, is so important, because even when you have those conversations and even an idea, one of the things I always tell students is like, tell somebody your idea, and then you ask them, if I was to create this, would you buy it? And if they say yes, put them down as a potential, as a lead, right? And when you do create it, reach out. You already have, you're starting to build, and you kind of have to start that right away. I'm a big fan of a 3-prong approach, where basically you should have 3 marketing activities happening at any single time. And then at that point, and when one hits, when you start to see a little traction, you spend a little bit more time, energy, resources there, but you continue the 3. And these 3 should be happening all the time, no matter what. And you have to review, of course, but.
Yeah, so is part of your process, Chris, is to be rotating those in and out depending what's working, what's not working?
100%. You got to review it, right? Anytime you have data of some sort or some signal, you got to pay attention to it, and having understanding and kind of, making it a process, right, is key. I learned that when I was a stockbroker, to be honest. Like I was a wealth manager for Scotia McLeod. I moved to a city, didn't know anyone, and I started a 3-prong approach, and I actually started off with cold calls.
Wow.
Because I didn't have a network. I just moved to a new city, and so I actually had to build that network. And cold calling was the way that I did it, and I was quite successful with it.
So in your years of doing this, then I'm curious, what the the triangle here, the pyramid, I should say. What are the 3 that's worked the best? Cold calling has worked. I know it's going to depend on the industry and et cetera, but is there 1 or 2 that are always kind of your go-tos?
Network and referrals, number 1. Okay. And what I love about that is because you already have the established relationship with people, and so they know you, and they likely, if you're a value-based person, you probably say what you try your best to say what you mean and do what you say, and then you do good work. And then good work is probably, in my mind, the thing that is essential, because like in business, you do good work and don't feel shameful or like to ask for a referral or a connection, right? Like, because people are like, I do good work, they're going to just send me people. No, you got to control that. Like, you got to have a process even for that, because otherwise, if you don't, it's like going to a restaurant. You go to a great restaurant, very rarely do you go online and post how great it was, right? Like, unless they prompt you to, right? Yeah. And so I think that's one piece. I'm a believer in cold calls. Not in the aspect of selling right away. It's that relationship piece where, hey, this is what we do. Like, it's informing. Like, once again, that sales piece is not. It's not sales. It's relationships. and I think, sometimes the best way to do that is through a phone call. especially B2B, B2C. There's obviously issues. And then the third one is social media, right? Like I don't use a lot of social media. We're focused 100% on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because it's a B2B. I find LinkedIn very good in regards to making connections and also in providing value. Because you can, if you have an expertise or you have something that you can put out in the world that somebody might be like, hey, that's interesting or that's useful, you can provide that value, and then people can be like, in a way, check you out, right? Like you can see, okay, this is what he talks about, this is who he is. You have your resume online in many ways, and it's just a trust indicator to be like, okay, he looks okay, he's decent, he seems like a nice guy, right? Maybe I'll have that coffee with him, right? And,
Well, it's interesting going back to what you talked about in terms of sales, but excuse me, a lot of people that I talk to, they say, I don't want to do sales. I said, well, if you really believe in your product or your service, then if you're not willing to make someone aware of it, then you're actually doing them a disservice. So either you believe in this or you don't. And if you believe in it, then you should be willing to talk about it. And it's typically when I say that, it's a bit of a light bulb moment I find with the people that I'm working with. And it's at that point they realize, yeah, I really, also sometimes the opposite happens. They realize they don't 100% believe in it. That's going to have the impact that their marketing literature says it's going to have. So you got to make sure those two things are aligned.
I so agree with you. Like, it's so much easier, and I've been in that place where if you believe in what you are doing, like you're excited to talk about it, right? Like that's why, like anytime I get a chance to talk about entrepreneurship, AI, or teaching on the podcast, I'm like, sign me up. Like I'm like, and I'm not usually this excited. Trust me. Like I get like it just naturally happens. I'm curious. Like, what do you think in this day and age? Like, what activities for sales are working like with your clients and what you see out there? What's working best?
I think it's putting out educational, like positioning yourself as a thought leader. I really believe in that you've got to, it's an older book now, but the jab, right hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, that philosophy still holds true. You got to establish that know, like, and trust. And I find too many people, and this has been going on for years when I've been sold to or at, they do what I call, it's a crude expression, but I call it show up and throw up. They just come in and they just go and they just start pitching. They haven't asked me one question about my business. So from a marketing or sales perspective, I think that's really important to really establish yourself as someone that is willing to put out good information, good content, and position yourself as a thought leader. And I think things will flow from that.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But I don't think many people, even myself, I don't even think we're good at, like, many people could use your support on that, because I don't think many people are good at that. Because I as LinkedIn is my main channel, I admire people. They come in, they try to get that meeting right off the bat, and I'm just like, you don't even know me yet, right? Like, yeah. or they use, and no, like, once again, I'm a big fan of AI, but I people still at this point in time, and maybe this will change in the future, and I think it will, because I think we've become a little bit less AI, when AI becomes much more commonplace, and maybe some of the stigma ways that we're going to see agent versus agent. But for now, I still think there's that opportunity to, once again, build the relationship with me, right? Like, don't just be like, hey, do you need this? I'm like, wow, great. Like, sure, but I don't know you, right? Like, right. And so I try to do things, like, I think about it, the things that when people try to sell me, I try to do the opposite. Like, because it's like, I don't like that. Like, it's like, spend some time. I know it takes time, and maybe that's why, and I always joke that maybe I'll never have $1 billion business, but I really don't want to. But I'm happy with slowly building it relationship by relationship. Yeah. Because I really think that that's where longevity lasts. Like, one of my proudest things is that the customers that my first customers are still with us.
That's great.
Like they, and I really think that the relationship with them is very strong. Like, we provide high level of service. We do what we say. We do it within an efficient amount of time, right? Like, and they get value from it. So So I'm pretty proud of that part of it, right? Like so, and I think that's what businesses should do. So
I agree 100%. So, Chris, we're out of time, believe it or not.
Wow, that was fast.
Before we let you go, where can our listeners and viewers find out more about your company?
Well, website, www.scarlettnova, 2Ts, nova.ai. We just actually revamped our website, much better. We have some really kind of cool tools there that you can try out. Other piece is follow me on LinkedIn. We have a corporate LinkedIn account that does, more of the corporate type messaging, but follow me. I'm more fun than the corporate account. So you can follow me at Chris W. Doré, D-O-R-E, at link on LinkedIn. Please connect, reach out. Life is short, business is one piece, but as I mentioned over and over again, I just love making relationships and meeting new people, because everyone that I meet has a story, everyone has a problem, everybody's trying to do stuff, and I've always considered it an honor to be able to, and with my students, is to support students and support businesses and support others, because I'm of the mindset that the business, I know people talk about competition, you've got to be like, I think that partnerships and supporting each other is really, life's short. That's the business. That's the style I want to go with, and not style. That's just my personality, and that's the personality of the company.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Chris. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, Pat. Really honored to be here.